Nice.
Sleep is what you need. Good night's sleep.
Near-death experiences are profound, subjective experiences that many people have when they come close to death, or sometimes when they are in fact pronounced dead. And they include such difficult-to-explain phenomena as a sense of leaving the physical body, reviewing one's entire life, encountering some other entities that aren't physically present that they sometimes interpret as deities or deceased loved ones, and at some point coming to a point of no return beyond which they can't continue and still come back to life. It's natural for people to think that near-death experiences are kind of like dreams or hallucinations. No two people have the same type of hallucination, whereas near-death experiences are basically the same across people, across cultures, across centuries. I think if you look at what things typically cause hallucinations, metabolic changes, drugs, changes in oxygen level, brain injury, those things produce certain known effects: confusion, agitation, belligerence. They're very different from the typical calm, peaceful, consistent content of a near-death experience. We've looked at specific things that may cause a hallucination. It was thought that maybe lack of oxygen to the brain would have a role in near-death experiences, since no matter how you come close to death, lack of oxygen to the brain is one of the final common pathways. But those who report near-death experiences actually have better oxygen flow to the brain than people who don't report NDEs. Likewise, we thought drugs given to people as they approach death may be causing these experiences. And what we find again is that the more drugs people are given as they approach death, the less likely they are to report a near-death experience. So drugs and lack of oxygen are not causing NDEs. They may in fact repress having an NDE. You can look on a dream as just a random series of visions, a way of processing problems in your life and finding solutions. There are phenomenological differences in the content between dreams and near-death experiences. Near-death experiences often have accurate out-of-body perceptions, whereas dreams and hallucinations do not. And that, to me, is probably one of the best ways of distinguishing between a dream and a near-death experience. Is there any connection between dreams and near-death experiences? The fact that both of those are processed by our brains ultimately says that there's got to be some similarities in how we describe them, how we understand them, how we relate them to other people. Many near-death experiences report things that other people can't verify right away. So we assume that they were just imagination or fantasy. And yet they insist, it's real, it's happened to me, I know it. Philosopher Abraham Kaplan talks about the story of a traveler who went to a distant land and came back with a fantastic story about a beast who can travel for days and days and days without water. And he tells this to his people in his town, and they get together and say, we don't know if this can be real, but we're going to get the wise men together and have a meeting and decide whether this beast can exist or not. And the traveler says, what do you mean can exist? I saw it. So it's like if you were hit by a truck and someone says, you just imagined it, you know whether you're hit by a truck or not. There's no doubt in your mind. And that's the way near-death experiences relate to their NDE. They feel like there's no doubt in my mind, this is a real experience I had, more real than this world is.
I don't care where I go when I'm with you. When I cry.
When I was 20 years old, I had a near-death experience. I injured my eye, that's why it's puffy. Near-death experience, you leave your body. I left my body and I was like traveling. Like it felt like I was in a bobsled. I didn't know what was happening. I had no clue. I had no time to process. Everything was in the moment. I had no idea what was happening. What was happening was faster than my mind could even comprehend. So it was like Plaid in Spaceballs.
Ludicrous speed! Go!
hell was that?
It was like tunnel vision. It was, Star Wars when you use, full throttle, and then it's like, it was like visual texture. I was zooming through, and when I say zooming through, I mean like I could sense the speed of it. It was very fast. There was a bit of G-forces because at one point it was kind of slowed down, and then there was this bend, and then it sped up again. Like it was very deliberate. One of the things I had in the moment was whatever's happening, I will never find my way back because the sense of distance. The sense of distance that I was covering so quickly. It was so foreign. I mean, literally, I was being taken away. That's what happened. I was being taken away. And it was concerning. It was not comfortable at all. It was very, not panicky, but kind of a sense, a little bit. So the next thing I remember, almost like if you imagine somebody's laying on the bottom of a pond on a warm summer night and the water is completely clear. And I don't have any explanation how they can breathe down there, but just say they can. And then you see the moon, like a full moon, up through the water. That's what I was kind of seeing. And then that kind of got sort of closer. Okay, so the next thing that happened was I was on this, what felt like a ledge, but it wasn't a visual ledge. And it, like, I came up over, and then it was a plane. But the plane was like more like almost like fog craters from, events or special effects, like a white fog. The light was the texture was light in the fog, but the light was very white. It was like a pure light, almost pure to the point it looked artificial. I didn't know. I was totally confused. I had no idea what was occurring. I was along for the ride, but yet there. Then at a certain point, kind of like beings started to form, like almost like moving around. Like I noticed like humanistic figures, almost like assembling, but I don't know that to be a fact because that might have been in retrospect knowing what happened. And then I was like kind of like, who are these people? I just accidentally was like at a playhouse and I was looking for the restroom, going down the hallway with the red carpet and the fancy hallway, and then I opened the door, waltzing in, then I'm on the stage and there's like 1,500 people in front of me. It felt like that, like I'm not supposed to be here. Like it was an odd feeling. I wanted to shrink. I felt like I wanted to shrink. The next thing I remember was the beings. I don't remember this forming, but the next thing I recall, can visualize and experience in the recollection is there was a V shape. Like I'm going, like if you're coming this way, there's a V shape. You're going into a V shape. In the opposite direction, I'm going into a V shape of these beings. Like on this platform of like wispy clouds that are highlighted by light, like they're made of light. I don't know. It's starting to feel deliberate. What happened was I was starting to be on like a conveyor belt, going into this like funnel of people, but it's just two rows of people that are in the shape of a V on this like cloud-based structure. And then so I'm going in there, kind of like starting to release, like being in the moment. I'm in the moment still, but I guess it would be starting to connect with the experience rather than being an outsider. Maybe because I was being drawn in, I don't know, but there was a sense of floatiness, and I had sight. I don't remember like a sensation of a body at all. I don't know, maybe more like a energy or a light orb, but I don't know that that's the case. But that's my intuition versus a human body. So I'm being drawn in to the point to where I'm beginning to be close to entering into the funnel, into the V of these. Like there was probably on the left, there was probably like 3 to 4 beings. On the right of side of the V, the column, the row, I would say 5 to 7, but closer to the 5. And so I'm entering into the beings that are closer to me in the V shape. So then that's when I start having this like transformative experience. They call it spiritually transformative experience, STE. And then it's like I hear my name being sung in a chorus, like layers and layers and layers. There's female voices, but many, many, many layers, and just all sort of coordinated and flowy, and just like, really like, wow. And then it's almost like I don't choose any of this, but in the moment it felt like there was a surrender. I surrendered to the experience, and then my sense of the ends of me, the end of me, I'm contained, starts to expand like a sphere. And I could sense the end of it, but it was like, but what was filled in this expansion was like an immense amount of power. Not just contentment or a lack of fear or joy. It was a tremendous amount of power. That was the biggest takeaway, is the amount of power. I mean, it's like you're fearful you're going to burst. The expansion, the growth, the power, and it was almost like that would stop it. Like, almost like me not completely surrendering into it would limit it. But not in a bad way. That's just what happened. That was the experience. And so I get drawn in like a conveyor belt. But so then I get midway into the V, and then these beings start to gather around me like almost like I showed up unexpectedly, and they were like, "Oh crap, he's here." And then they're like, "Hey, let's get the party started. Hey, you go there." And all this. They knew who I was, and they were like, whew, like in awe of me, and that's not me, saying anything special about myself, but that's what it was. By in awe, I mean, that these beings had a deep concern, care, understanding, knowledge for me. They had an appreciation for me, like unconditional, like, I don't know who these people are, if they're people. And it was unconditional. It was everything was unconditional. And I never experienced anything close to that. Not even that in that ballpark, in that realm. These beings, I guess you could call them angels. It was exceedingly bright. It was very bright around them. I don't know if there was light above them or they were light themselves. They were wearing sort of pearlescent gowns from like in the neckline down, covering what would be feet, I guess. But full-length gowns and very drapey. Like, for example, the sleeves had a very large arm opening at the end by the wrist, so it would just sort of drape down and there would be folds. But it didn't necessarily look like material. My sense of vision was off the charts. Like, I could see, say if they were made up of light, individual particles of light. My eyes could see each molecule of light that these beings were made of. It was a real spectacle. And when I got in the middle of them and they sort of surrounded me, like encircled me, there was an exchange, there was an interaction. I do not remember faces. I don't know if this is an accurate memory, or this part I'm about to say is an accurate memory, or filled in the blanks, but it's definitely reoccurring visually in my mind, which is the color of their faces would be like a copper color, like a copper, kind of a darker copper. I don't know, not that it matters, but they were gathered around me. They were extending their arms out, I believe. Just, like, whew, nothing I've ever experienced before. But in the moment, I kind of felt like, I didn't think this consciously, but you would have these, like, blips of, I don't know if it's revelation. It's just all happening in real time. So, but it was like, and it wasn't a word thought. It was just an impression that no wonder, this was the missing piece. This was what's missing. This is why there's struggle. Now it all makes sense. Like a plug that goes into a certain type of outlet, it plugged. It was like, okay, this fits. Like this fits. This feels like it fits. There's nothing missing. A sense of home. And I remember the one that stands out to me the most is the one the closest to the ball of light on the right. And she raised her right arm, which her right shoulder was facing the ball of light, sort of over my head, on top of my head. I don't know. I saw the gown all stretched out and draped, sort of looping down, hanging down. I don't know what that was about. It's like parts of it that I don't recall. But the sensation was being lost in the moment, caught up in the moment. No fear, not even really thinking, just sort of experiencing. Now, when I started hearing my name sung and then I was among these beings, the expansion that I had was troublesome, like enormous, like the sky. It felt like I was expanding, and there wasn't really a sky per se there, but just sort of like space, the sense of space, the sense of area. And it was like I would expand, like huge. My sense of being, my presence, felt it would never stop growing if I wasn't like sort of a little concerned, because I don't know, like you're getting lost in it. It's just so much. Like the human body could never withstand anything like that. When people pass out due to extreme emotional elation, or the human body could never withstand anything like that. But there was a sort of the ultimate sense of belonging, connectedness, feeling at home, feeling right, feeling like it finally makes sense. It finally fits. It's like a sense of a family, that you never had. Nothing like that. I don't care what kind of family you have. Nothing like this. There was a woman, I read a near-death experience account. There was a woman, she was delivering a baby, and she died on the operating table. She had a near-death experience according to her account, and she didn't want to go back. She realized that she was giving birth, but it had no meaning. When you're there, this place has zero meaning. When you're there, this place has zero meaning. It feels fake, like it's lifeless and it's fake. All these humans in demon forms down here running governments and things for thousands of years. I mean, I would be shocked if they're part of some master plan to make us go through hardship. What do I know? But they don't, their nature seems nothing like what I experienced. They seem like losers. Yeah, they're in control and power down here, but that's down here. That's meaningless. The joke's on them. If they don't know any better, I assume they do, because they hold the secrets of the world. Or they know they accepted a raw deal and they're out for revenge. I don't know. But they're jokers. Now, the biggest fear that I have personally is reincarnation. I don't want to hear about that. No. Like to go there, maybe you forget, I don't know, when you come back. But no, I don't want to come back here versus there. There's a sense of homesickness. There's a sense of this place is shallow and hollow, this world. It's ridiculous. It's like graduating high school and immediately going back to preschool, and you're like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not really into these toys anymore. You outgrew everything. You saw the other side. You tasted perfection. Now come back here and try to deal with this bull crap, ever increasing, and you feel like you can see right through it, like it's all a scam, and all your neighbors have no clue, and they're just buying all these satanic lies that the government's feeding them. But during this whole time, I should have brought it up, but during this whole time, behind the V, everything was blackness. It was like the sensation of what we see in Hollywood, in outer space. Okay? Blackness, like limitless area. That's what it felt like. It felt limitless. Like the blackness was limitless. That's where this cloudy plane existed upon, or within. At the end of this V, I don't know if I recognized it or realized it was there from the beginning. I don't think it was, or maybe it was smaller than it grew. But like I'm transporting down this conveyor belt, like at the grocery store checkout, there's beings that surround me, and the conveyor belt stops, and then the conveyor belt starts going again. Where is it going? It's going into a big light, a big ball of light. It wasn't huge. I mean, it was like maybe the size of 2 garage doors.
Smoke like water runs inside, still out of trees.
And I was like, like, then I realized in the moment, there's no more beings, it's this thing. It's this light. So it's like, oh, so I went past it. Now I'm going into this light. I started going into this light, and that's when everything went, it went kind of bonkers. It went kind of crazy. As I was going into this ball of light and I was being drawn into it like a very slow conveyor belt, I was floating. It was not against my will. None of this was against my will. There seemed to be a great power that sort of overtook me. I don't remember any noises, any sounds. I don't remember any sounds, but it was like spiritually or energy speaking, it was very loud. And as I was going into the light, the sensation was I was being transformed. It was like a kiln or a metal foundry, like I was being transformed. And it felt irreversible. I was being irreversibly transformed, or I would have been. Like I was going to become a different type of being, and the impression was after that happens, there's no way back. You're transformed. This was my impression. You're no longer what you were. You're now something completely different. The main takeaway was irreversibility. When I was going into the light, I felt like the movie Kung Fu Hustle, when the guy was like having this like guitar-like structure that he used as a weapon. He was like fring, fring, and it would shoot these shards, these spears at his nemesis. But the light, there were shards of light coming from this ball, but they weren't harmful to my sense of vision. It was not obtrusive or harmful. Very sharp, gold-ish, mostly white, but elements of gold. So then I realized, I felt like there was this threshold. Like I'm going into this thing that was like getting better. It was like, whoo, like transformative power. Like it was like, then I felt this threshold. Like if I pass this threshold, I would never decide to come back on my own. And right before that, I was like, oh, I'm dying. I'm going to heaven now. What I conceived is heaven at the time. But then I was like this panic, like almost like the threshold was like, I wanted it so bad, I wanted to go, but it didn't feel right. So I knew, poof, you better decide. I didn't think this way, but it was like a reaction. And then I woke up in my body.
An endless aching need. I say love.